This is supreme chess, specifically a supreme game of chess that was played between two grandmasters, Daniel Naroditsky and Magnus Carlsen. This is Title Tuesday Blitz game. All the details are in the description below. And this game features something that we don't usually see when two grandmasters are playing. You know, when grandmasters are playing, we expect to see like best move, great moves. We hardly see mistakes. I mean, everybody makes mistakes, but we see a few mistakes. This game has a blunder, a clear game-losing blunder, and you won't even believe how the opponent capitalized on that move. So it begins with a very simple e4, and then we have g6. Magnus is not in a hurry to take control of the center, and so Danya takes the entire center. And then he plays this move, develops his knight, and then we have this move c6. At this point, we are in the modern defense. This is actually a type of the modern defense called the rat defense. That's very funny, but that's the actual name. The rat defense, accelerated Gurgenitz variation. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but that is what we have on the board right now. So how does Daniel continue? Well, he simply pushes a pawn. Now he has full control of the center. He has control of every single square in the center right here. And I don't know why Magnus is allowing him take the center, but maybe he has a plan. So he simply pushes now. He wants to now contest the center, but Danya simply closes the position, and then we have this situation. Magnus now decides to attack on the flank, given that the king has opened up this area, and I'm guessing that now at this point, Danya is probably not concerned with this opening here because he's thinking that he wants to castle queenside, and if Magnus is pushing all of these pawns, then he's also probably going to castle queenside. So this is still very good at this position. It's not too bad for either white or black, and so Danya continues with developing his knight. Then we see the knight get pinned. The bishop is developed. This one closes because the bishop is now out, and so you can close the position here. So we continue. Develop all your pieces. It's just good principled chess. And then the knight starts coming in. So the knight is maneuvering, wants to get hold of this very good square. And then maybe in the future, if Danya is still thinking of castling this way, then we can simply start the attack. So since there are so many pieces here, Danya wants to chase away the bishop. The knight comes. The knight is now threatening this because if takes, then you have this takes, which will be a tempo on the queen. And then you can also take here with check. So here, Danya saves the bishop pair and Magnus chops off the knight. So we see queen recaptures, and then we have this move. Interestingly, here now you'll be thinking that the best move here is to castle queenside. Here is already cramped. You have this place. Rook is already here. These pieces can be developed and the queen can castle here, which means you're directly under fire. All these pawns are going to march forward. The knight is already in position. Here is already vacated. And then this is dangerous. But computer is actually saying that you can still castle here. You can still actually just castle in this position and it's going to be fine. If you look at the eval bar, it doesn't move that much and it's going to be fine. But no human being is going to play this position and still feel comfortable about it. So we obviously don't see this move. Instead, we see the knight getting chopped off and then Danya castles queenside like a normal human being. So we see the knight getting developed, and then Danya wants to get rid of this pawn so that it doesn't become a long-term problem that he has to worry about. And Magnus chops it off immediately, right? The problem with not taking this pawn, especially those of you who like to do serious attacking chess, like you may be thinking that, okay, instead of bothering with this area, I can simply just bring my knight here, bring it in here, bring the queen and simply attack. The problem is that all of that is simply too slow, because if you try, white can simply just bring his rook, and by the time you get here, well, it's a little bit too late because this already opens up, and if you try to invade, whether with queen here, we simply kick away the knight and then you don't have enough to attack, or even if you're coming here again, we just simply kick away the knight and then you're not in time, because if you take here, I simply take, and if you check, I can dodge, and then your queen is under attack. So you just don't have enough time to do this. And that's why Magnus takes the pawn, and then we see the bishop take back, and then the attack begins. So he's now thinking, we have an equal position. We are completely out of the opening. We are solidly in the middle game. Let me attack. His king is here, and my king is going to be safe here because I don't need to castle. I can easily develop this knight and put my king on maybe d7 or even e7, depending on how the position turns out. So we see Danya, cool, calm, and collected. He simply moves the king inside, and then the knight is coming. The same maneuver we just talked about, except this time you're not hanging any pawns or losing the advantage. This is the right time to do the maneuver. But now, Danya simply steps back because he doesn't want any push that is going to be protected by this, and then that will give Magnus the tempo he needs to begin his attack. So he's stepping back with his knight so that nothing comes with tempo. And then we see the attack begins. He's trying to push his own pawn here because there's a rule that when you're being attacked in the center, you attack on the flank. When you're being attacked on the flank, you attack in the center. So instead of just playing defensive and let your opponent keep pummeling you, beating you with his own pieces, it's also good for you to begin your own attack so that you have something. Now we see the knight hops in, he pushes his pawn again, and then the attack is here. So at this point, Danya should start paying attention to what is going on around him on the king side, and so he brings his knight in. So this is going to help with the defense of the king side so that everywhere is protected. Now, if he just plays just another move, like, because now he has maybe a slight advantage, computer is saying 0.29, which is not that big. But if he just tries to play like a different move, maybe thinking that he's going to bring in his bishop here to attack or something like that, then it becomes too late, because the moment let's go back one move, because the moment you do this, the queen can simply invade and you're not in time now, right? Now, if you try to do this move, you're met with the simple fork. This is fork of queen and king, and so you have to give up the rook, and this is now a dead draw position, according to computer anyway. But given that you have all these three pawns facing your king, and then you have this queen so close to the action, you have this rook already here, this one can simply develop. The second rook comes into the party. This is very scary for any human being to play, and so and you're also down the exchange, right? So this is very scary for any human being to play, and that is why Danya did not go for this. So instead of doing all of that maneuver, which can also be considered a good move, he instead brought his knight back so that he can defend his king. And then the pawn enters. Magnus is trying to quickly crash into the position and open up the king side so that he can start attacking. Danya takes it, the bishop comes in, the knight comes out to attack the bishop, and then the bishop tries to enter inside, is protected, so you can't take it. For those of you who are under 1000 rated, that is why you can't take it. And then he brings his bishop here. He's probably thinking, get rid of this thing, is all the way in the territory right here, and I don't want it to be there. Because if you leave it there, then it might become a complication in the future, right? So there's a principle for beginners that you can learn, is that when there is an opponent in your side, your half of the board, that is this side. Oh my goodness, that's a weird arrow. On this side, your half of the board, it's always good to try to kick them out or to make sure that they're not threatening anything, because they can then become complications in the future. So the queen comes in, takes, and now you can either trade it. But Danya probably sensing that he has the advantage now, or wants to keep the middle game on for a while, because Magnus is known as possibly the greatest endgame player in the world. He steps back with his queen, maintaining the advantage that he already has, playing this game accurately, and it's beautiful. Magnus now plays what is going to be the first move of a series of fantastic moves that you're going to see in this game, right? He plays king d7. King d7. And then immediately you see that even though we have these two pieces, this rook is looking at the king. And so what does Danya do? He takes away the knight so that there is only one piece looking at the king right now. And that is when Magnus realizes, okay, I should step away immediately from this line of fire. Instead, however, what Magnus could have done, what Magnus should have done in this position, computer says, is that he should have gone back and tried to trade the queens, right? Because if you trade, then black is simply winning here. Black has a pass pawn and it's a protected pass pawn, and then there's very little that you can do about it. He's going to then come and try to get this pass pawn promoted to the queen, and his position is very safe. You don't have any queen anymore, so it's going to be very hard to reach this king with just knights and rooks, right? So the position is quite safe. You also have this one who have already entered into the white's position, and so black has a slight advantage here, right? But Magnus doesn't play that move. Instead, trying to avoid the x-ray of the king, he immediately plays king c7. And that is the blunder that loses the game. Because in this position, Naroditsky played rook takes d5. Brilliant move. This is a brilliant move. And for those of you who don't understand why it's a brilliant move, why you're just sacrificing your rook, is because you can't take. If you take this, then we have takes, and wherever, it doesn't matter where you move your king, the queen is dead, right? The queen, you just lose a full queen. Okay? So that is why this is a brilliant move. Now, obviously, he didn't take because he doesn't want to move his queen. Computer, again, in this position is still saying that you can still play queen e4. Because, again, if you have this position, this one is still under attack, and maybe, I mean, it's still a losing position, but maybe you get away with it. This is going to play, and then white is going to be up 2 pawns. So this black has 4 pawns and white has 6 pawns. So white is going to be up 2 pawns. And with a GM, objectively speaking, with a GM up 2 pawns, with over 1 minute and 30 seconds on the clock, this is winning, right? But who knows? Maybe you can play this and you can fight it out. However, Magnus doesn't play that. Instead, Magnus brought the rook to attack the queen. And it was in this position that Danya Naroditsky executed what is so beautiful to watch, beginning with another rook sacrifice on d7. This is such a brilliant move because, first of all, you cannot move anywhere into the back rank. If you move here, it's simply mate in 1, and it's the same thing if you move to the other side. It's simply mate in 1. So you can't go back, right? Where can you go? Let's say you want to come forward, right? Which wasn't played in the game. There is still the same queen move. And the beautiful thing is that this knight is so well positioned that it doesn't matter where you go, because you only have 2 places that you can go here. It doesn't matter where you go, the knight just goes the opposite place and it's checkmate. So if you come here, knight comes here and is protecting your escape square and checking you at the same time. The queen covers this place and it's checkmate. In the same way, if you go here, the same thing happens. You can't come here because the rook is blocking this place. You can't come here because of here. And then you can't come here because of this, right? You can't come back here, obviously, because of the queen. So either way, you're still checkmated. And it's the same queen move. So instead of that, Magnus simply took the rook, and then Danya Naroditsky still played the same queen b7. This queen b7 is the ultimate move. It wins no matter what you do. And then Magnus has only 2 options. He can either go here or go here. Either way, it's a mate in 2. This is not what he played, but let's assume he goes here. You get checked and you get mated. And if you play what he played in the game, which was king e8, then Danya Naroditsky simply played this, and now you have only 1 move, which is forced, and then it was mate with a knight. Look at this brilliant, very beautiful, well-executed move. And Danya Naroditsky completed this game with a 96.8 accuracy, while Magnus only had 86 0.4 accuracy. Everything started when Magnus played this game losing blunder, this right here. And it's very easy to see why, because this is here and you're probably thinking that it's not that serious. Maybe he can sack his knight with check and then take and then he invades. But probably thinking that there's no big deal here, because in this position the king can even come here and he's perfectly fine, perfectly safe. There's nothing you can do to him, right? Because here is protected and here you can't come because he's going to take. And he's safe right there. So he was probably thinking that it's perfectly fine to come here, but he did not anticipate that in that position, after he played, Danya was going to sack the rook. And probably he knew, I mean, I didn't watch his stream, but that is how the game ended, with a very beautiful knight checkmate. This is such a weird arrow. With a very beautiful knight checkmate, with the queen and the pawn blocking the escape squares of the king. If you liked this video, comment below. Tell me which other video you want me to review, and I'm going to review it. Make sure you subscribe, make sure you like, and I'll see you in the next video.